Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Technique and only.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. Douglas Viviani here with the rather slinky David Cohen.
Slinky? Okay. That's
what does that? Is that a hint about what today's show is about? I don't know. I do the best I can with these definitions. But listen, this week, David, we have a very special guest. In fact,
Yes,
we've got 3 special guests today. How does that sound?
Sounds fun.
I think it'll be good for everybody because we will not be carrying the show. We will just be observing, and we get a...
It's going to be our best show ever.
Exactly. Kind of a week off. We're going to give the show off to Leo Viviani. Are you here, Leo? Say hello.
Yes, I am here.
10-year-old Leo Viviani, here for a purpose. We will explain that in one moment. Angelica Viviani, are you here?
Hello.
13 years old, and we have author Winter Miller. She's a playwright who's been published by Concord and Play Scripts. She's written more than 90 articles for the New York Times, as well as for New York Magazine, the Boston Globe, the International Herald Tribune, Variety, Huffington Post, the Village Voice, and Ms. Magazine. She's traveled with Nicholas Kristof to the Sudan border to write her play in Darfur, and now she's venturing into the world of writing a children's book, or is it a children's book? We'll get there with that. Not a cat, a memoir. You can find that, of course, on Amazon.com and all the locations everywhere out and about. If you're looking for a new classic children's book or a young adult book, this is it with a message. We're going to talk about that today. Listen, Winter Miller, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming. Everything Old is New Again.
Thanks. It's good to be here. And I got to refamiliarize myself with my bio. There's nothing more embarrassing than that.
And it's so long and detailed, as we always say. Unfortunately, we only have another 3 more minutes into the show. No, but here we go. Leo and Angelica have read this book. It's called, again, Not a Cat, a Memoir. It's got some great illustrations in it and a nice message. Before we dive into too much, can I have Angelica ask the question you wanted to ask, the first question about the book and about Winter? You wanted to ask your first question?
Oh, question?
Yeah.
Okay. So what inspired you to write the book?
Oh, well, happy to talk about this. It's always alarming when you have very smart children getting ready to ask you questions. You don't know where they're going to come from, but I can handle that one. I'm ready. I had an absolutely incredible cat whose name was Gato. And he was my best friend. We were together for 13 years, and we spent so much time together that we had such a good time that I wanted everyone to know about Gato, because we traveled all over the country, and he met tons of people. He ended up having a fan club, so much so that when I brought him places, I would walk into the room, and people would be like, Gato! And then maybe 5 minutes, they'd be like, oh, hey, Winter, how's it going? So he was just an exceptionally sweet, fun, and very silly cat. He was really fun to watch. So I wrote this book because I wanted everyone to get a little piece of Gato and how wonderful of a cat he was.
And Leo, you had a question about Gato's name. You want to ask that question first off?
Is Gato's name mean cat because that's in Italian?
Well, it's funny because I'm in Italy right now talking to you, but actually Gato is Gato and he's Spanish. And the reason that came about is my nephew is half Dominican, and I didn't speak very much Spanish. I still am not very good at Spanish. But I wanted to have a way for us to bond when he was just born. And so I named the cat Gato, just so that we would at least have a little bit of Spanish between us.
But you were close, Leo. You're off by 1 letter, and that was pretty good pickup. Thank you for that.
We were close. And you know what's funny? People who are French sometimes think that his name is Gâteau, which means cake in French. So people tend to be, they make up their own thing. They think either cat or cake. I don't mind. Both sound great to me.
And in some ways that relates to the message of the book or what happens in the book, right? Do you want to give a little bit of a message or a review, I would say, Angelica, of the book, just basically what you thought of it when you read it?
Oh, okay. So I was very impressed by the message of the book and just the book in general. Like, usually it was unlike a children's book I've read before, and I really like that. I wish more children's books were like this, or really for any audience. I was usually, like, in children's books, they don't, like, talk about, like, being your own, like, person, like, doing what you want to do, and, like, no limitations to what you want to do. And I'm happy that all ages can read this and be exposed to this positive message that people need. And I also wish that that some people that, you know, don't like different things can maybe look at this book and it can help change their mind about people in a very positive way. So I really enjoyed the book. So yeah.
That's a great review, Angelica. Yes. I'm sorry, Winter?
Did you have a favorite page, Angelica?
I actually do. I don't know what page number it is, but it's you may think that a dog looks like this, or a cow looks like this. This page, actually, right here. This is my favorite page.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a page where Gato is hanging out with a dog and a cow and a horse and a rabbit.
Yes. I love that page.
Now, we don't want to, there's no spoilers here, guys. We don't want to give away too much about I'm being silly, but it's true. What we do want to say, Leo, or have Leo ask a question, because the same kind of thing, didn't you have some kind of a question that you wanted to ask about Gato? And Picasso and your own cat?
No, I do, but I want.
You have a cat named Picasso?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to do a different question.
Okay, ask another question, and we'll get right back to that in the next section.
In the book, it says Gato eats grass. Does he do that in real life, or is it just for the book?
That is just for the book.
Right.
He sniffs grass. He's a big grass sniffer, but he would eat catnip. But if I took him out into the grass, he would just kind of roll around with it. But there are plenty of cats who eat grass, and I know this because I live in Brooklyn, and there's a pet store down the street, Trixie's, and in the window they advertise cat grass. So I know that there are many cats who do eat grass. Gato just didn't seem to be drawn to it, but it wouldn't be unusual for a cat to eat grass.
Now,
does Picasso eat grass? No.
Picasso we have a Picasso and a Disney, and they're both not allowed out of the house.
Oh, see, that's the thing. Maybe you need to bring some grass growing in the house and see if they go for it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just bring a clump of grass, put it on the floor, and say, here you go, here's dessert. I think you have to have it growing in a little trough for them to sort of, hunt it.
We have seen Picasso eat some of the plants here and there, right, guys?
Yeah.
Picasso's very adventurous that way. But talk about adventure. Gato is, in this book, just for the listeners, is kind of explained. There's a little bit of, he goes on a little adventures and a little summary of the different things that he's done in his life, and tries to and will get to present a nice message. And there are also illustrations here, Leo, right?
Yeah.
With pictures of the real Gato throughout some portions of the book, I think more at the beginning and the end, right? But we do get a chance to see the real Gato in this book as well, besides these wonderful illustrations. Am I correct?
Yeah. In the beginning, when I first presented the book, I didn't know if we would use actual photos of Gato, because he's pretty much done everything in the book that you see. Although, as Leo points out, he was not much of a grass eater. But he's been on an airplane. He's been on a bunch of airplanes. He's hung out with a horse and a cow. He's gone walking with a dog. I've taken him swimming. I've taken him hiking. You can see in the very opening of the book where there are the actual photos of him. There is one of him in Washington, D.C. I think he's in front of Lincoln.
Yeah.
And then there's one of him on a canoe where he's sitting at the very front, the bow, and he's just looking out. So I wanted to do photos of the real Gato. But then it was explained to me that it would be much more fun if we had illustrations. So my very good friend Danica Novgorodov did the illustrations. They're pretty fun, right? The illustrations?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to pick up that thought in a moment because we're out of time, but we love the illustrations. We're going to get into that. This is a great book. I would suggest a possibility of a new classic along the lines of the Giving Tree and Fall of Freddie the Leaf and so forth. We'll get into some of that here on Everything Old is New Again. We're talking to the author of, get it right, Not a Cat, a memoir by Winter Miller. We'll be back right after this, and Everything Old is New Again.
Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
How can Batgirl be the best anything when Catwoman is around? No best dressed list is complete without the addition of the Queen of Criminals, the Princess of Plunder, yours untruly. Right, Manx and Angora?
Right.
In any comparison between Batgirl and myself, she runs a poor third.
Aha, welcome back and Everything Old is New Again. What are we doing? Talking about Eartha Kitt, on Batman 66, the original show. Well, we have an author on the show, and Everything Old is New Again with David Cohen. Not a Cat, a memoir by Winter Miller. Winter, thank you very much for coming back. Good to see and hear you. And the question I have right off the bat is, why did I play Eartha Kitt from Batman? Did you have any brush with fame that you'd like to share with us?
That's hilarious because I was like, do they know? Do they know that I spent time with Eartha Kitt? Do they know about this absurd story? Apparently you do. Good job with your research.
Thank you.
Yes. When I was working at the New York Times, I was covering an event, and I needed to ask Eartha Kitt about her opinion about the Iraq War. And this was maybe 2006 or 5, something like that. And I found her at the party, and she was wearing a fur coat, which is no surprise. And I went up to her, and I made small talk with her, and then I said, I want to ask you about your feelings about the war in Iraq. And she started to talk to me, and as she was speaking to me, she took my left hand and her right hand, and she started to push her thumb into the palm of my hand, and her fingers were holding the back of my hand. It was sort of like this swooping motion, this very soft, mesmerizing motion, and I was put under spell of Eartha Kitt. And while it was happening, I got so discombobulated that I accidentally turned off my tape recorder. So I was completely under the spell of Eartha Kitt and just rolling along, and I looked down and realized that I turned off the tape recorder, and I quickly put it back on. And I mean, she talked for a very long time, so I got what I needed, but it was really funny. I was just completely under an Eartha Kitt spell. So she's wonderful.
And certainly she played Catwoman in Batman. If you haven't seen that series, guys, 1966, but it's got great colors and action and fun and thrills and adventure. And I'll tell you, it relates to Not a Cat, a memoir in some ways. We can weave that in there, sort of, at least with the idea that cats are the theme here today. I'm just curious as to if you thought why she did that. Did she try to disarm? Did she try to calm you down? Was it sort of some other reason? Do you have any idea?
I think it was just who she was. I think she was absolutely used to hypnotizing people, and she was, friendly. And I don't think, it's not like she was disturbed by what I wasn't hitting, something that she didn't want to talk about. I think that's just the way that she operated. Some people are very tactile, and she is, certainly like a feline, very lithe and smooth. So I think there was nothing exceptional about it. I don't think that she was like, "Oh, Winter, I would like to hold her hand." I think it was just, that's how she was. But
right, and think about, we've met and interviewed lots of people like yourself that are in the public eye, and and it's by Zoom and all that. But I think it becomes so much more memorable when you're in person with someone, and then to have an experience where they hold your hand, they pat your back, or whatever it is. It's just an extra sense that, holy smokes, you remember that, and I don't think you'll ever forget that. And you'll never forget her. So she's pretty sharp in doing that too. I wonder that, that's just a lesson for all. There are five senses, right? And she was able to tap into additional senses other than just talking.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure she forgot me immediately, but I've obviously never forgotten Eartha Kitt. Who could?
There you go. And we're not going to forget Gato. And that's what would you say, the star of the show. And Samantha Bee calls Gato her Yoda. I wonder why that is. Leo, you have any idea why Samantha Bee says Gato's her Yoda?
Maybe because she's
Into the microphone, my man.
Maybe because she's like so calm.
Calm. And what else, Jel? Do you have an idea why?
Well, I don't really watch Star Wars except for like Baby Yoda, but I'm pretty sure Yoda is like very like wise. So I think Gato's pretty wise.
Yes, this is a wise cat, a wise guy, and I think it's very touching in a way. At the end of this book, there's a notation, a picture of Gato, and it says, "In memory of Leo." What's Gato's name?
Electric Gato Miller.
There you go. Who lived long enough to tell you his story. So we all have a purpose, a message kind of in life, right? Or if we want to tap into that, and even a cat can teach a lesson, so to speak. Is that right, like Joe? What kind of lesson do you think this story is teaching?
This book?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I think this book talks about like how you don't need like limitations on like what you do, because I mean, in a cat place, like you may think like a cat just like stays at home or just any like normal cat stuff, but this one he does so much other things, and that like goes for like people too. Like they like do all different things, and everyone can still get along and stuff. And I really like the book. I think that's like part of the message a little bit.
I think so. I think Winter, you might agree with that. Does that make sense?
Definitely, you got it. You absolutely got it. One of the things that was why the book came about is because I would take him out for walks when we'd be walking around in Brooklyn, and he was sort of like a little furry mare. People would come up and want to meet him. People who had never seen cats before, little kids, or people who were afraid of cats. And they would, get down and hold him. I remember once I took him to vote with me, and I went into the voting booth, and the woman who was the pollster, who was a Republican, which I am not, but Gato sat very politely on her lap while I voted. And the thing is that people would always say is, your cat is so much like a dog. And that was the thing that got to me was, how do you know? How do you know that this isn't an aspect of Gato and of any cats? Why are we saying this is how a dog is, this is how a cat is? What if we just got rid of that and let the animal be whoever the animal is? And I think that that's true for people as well, is can you be just as you are without being told, oh, you like to climb trees, you're a tomboy, or you do this because you're an evangelical, like whatever it is. We should all be able to just be simply our name and who we are. And that, to me, is what Gato is about, is defying expectations, but also pushing those limitations aside and saying, I'm a cat. And just like a dog, I can swim.
Right, and
we do call it the doggy paddle, but we could have called it the kitty paddle.
Right. And just because, or I should say this, in my view, not to go too deep, but, when you start to categorize people just because of they're a Mets fan, let's say, doesn't mean that defines them entirely. Doesn't mean a Yankees fan can't be friends with them. And also doing that kind of can build walls. Oh, you're a Mets fan? I'm not supposed to like you because I'm a Yankees fan. I'm using that as a silly example, but you know what I mean? Like, so why do we need to make these groups? Why can't someone be a Mets fan and a Yankees fan, or even a Boston Red Sox fan in New York City, and still it would be okay because that's who you are? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
There we are, right, guys? That's kind of a great message, and that's what this book is all about. Not a Cat, a memoir. It has amazing illustrations in it. Leo both of you were loving the illustrations as well, right? They're very different. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about them in any way? You have anything to say about the illustrations? Maybe what your favorite one is, Leo? Do you remember the one that you liked?
My favorite page?
Okay, you can tell the favorite page. What about the favorite picture?
Ooh, I have one.
This one.
All right, so this is the one that we have. There's a page here where there's a huge word that is used, and sort of the rosebud, if you will, of this book, I would say. And so we're not going to read the word because it gives away a lot. But that page has one of the things is well, just want to describe it, Leo?
Basically, Gato as a train.
Right. Gato as a train with his face at and you love the illustrations, how it shows Gato could be all these different things. Yeah. Jel, you have one also, I think.
I also have a favorite illustration. Here.
Okay.
This is my favorite page. Favorite illustration. Because it shows all. Well, am I allowed to say?
Yeah, you could go into it. Sure, why not? There's Gato at the bottom. He's looking at tons of different kinds of people, right?
Yeah,
Jel?
there's so many different kinds of people. There's so many different skin colors. There's so many different people there, and I don't know. I just really like this. And Gato's there, just oh my gosh.
And he loves whether the person's blind or in a wheelchair or different nationalities and different races and so forth, right? Everyone is cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
That page that you pointed out is my nephew's favorite page, and the reason is one nephew is on one side of the page in the middle, and then on the other page there are two other nephews. The very tall, curly-haired person with a scarf, that's Omar. So the Omar who was just born when I got Gato is now a teenager and almost 6 feet tall and has a big head of curly hair. And then in the next to him is a little sort of blonde kid, and that is Gray. And then the first one I mentioned, that's Lucas. So those are my relatives in the book, which is pretty fun too.
So there's even nepotism in creating illustrations.
There is, because Danica put her 2 daughters in the book as well.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because I'm sorry.
If you look very closely on the subway page, you will also see that I am in there.
We're gonna have to
ruin it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get into that in a few moments because we're running out of time here. Everything old is new again. We'll be back with Winter Miller. We're talking about Not a Cat, a memoir, a great book. We'll be back with this and everything old is new again.
Hey, Dad. Hello, this is Pinky at Pinky and the Brain. Every time Brain and I are preparing to take over the world, we prepare ourselves with the joy of everything old is new again. Nerf.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New again. Rob Paulson there, our favorite voice cartoonist, if you will, or animation, right? Or no, Joe?
I didn't know that.
Yes, he was on the show.
I watched the one on YouTube.
It was so good. We have another very special guest. Winter Miller's with us. Not a Cat, a memoir, a great children's book for all ages, for those of all ages, for the kid at heart and more. And Winter, I know David Cohen, we've monopolized. Leo and Angelica have been so selfish, let's say, to just being silly, but to monopolize the time. But David Cohen hasn't had the opportunity to say anything, and he is there. So David, take it.
Yeah, well, I'm much more interested in hearing what our guests have to say today. But I have a question for Angelica and Leo. So the message in the book about labeling and inclusiveness and identity, how often in school or maybe in your everyday lives is that message, I guess, communicated to you beyond what you just read in the book?
Well, I wish in my school they talked about it more, about labeling and everything that the book, demonstrates and talks about. I wish school talked about it more. But outside, I think it's very important try not to put limitations on who you are and that kind of stuff. So,
but I think, and that's exactly right. But I want to hear from you and or Leo. Do any of the teachers, or is there ever an assembly? I know you had the bully assembly once, but is there any assemblies or a teacher talking, or I don't know, even between your friends talking about, oh, that's pretty cool to be this, and this one looks like that, and that's okay, or the reverse? Is there negative thoughts about that stuff?
Oh well, my friends and I not that we spend hours talking about this, but we acknowledge it. But I feel like at school, can I be honest?
You're supposed to be, yes. Of course.
All we get is bullying assemblies, and that's important.
Right.
That's important, but we don't talk about this stuff, and I wish we did, because it's not brought up enough at school. But I mean, my friends and I are aware of this topic and that kind of stuff. But
in a bullying assembly, do they attack, and maybe that's not the right word, but do they approach it where they explain or try to explain why someone bullies, and or what the crooked motivation would be to do that, or do they just say just don't do it?
Well, they always say bullies bully because they don't like what's going on at home, or they don't like themselves, but they don't talk about why. Well, they don't really talk about why they're bullying a certain person or anything like that, which I think they should talk about, because that's yeah.
So do you think this book would be something that, especially, maybe a little younger, but your age too, don't get me wrong, but growing up, to have someone or a teacher read this to a child, 8 years old, 7 years old, and all the way up, and then have a conversation in the class about what's going on in this book?
Yeah, I think if our teachers, in a young grade, elementary school, read this book, I bet a lot of the kids I know now wouldn't be how they are. I think they would take a lot away from it, actually. I feel like they would not act how they are, because some kids at school are So I think if some of my peers read this at a young age, and any age now, I feel like they would really take a lot away from it and put it in their everyday lives.
Do you think it would help them on kind of two ways to not be afraid to be who they are, and on the other side to maybe understand that it's okay for them and others to be different and accept us all enjoying our differences, instead of being angry that we're not all, I'll be silly, but not all Mets fans, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if this book is all about celebrating, in my view, it's all about celebrating differences and not labeling and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got it.
Yay! So yeah, I definitely think that.
And we have to have a Star Trek reference in every show, and we'll say that my kids might not know, but Star Trek fans know that Mr. Spock, and is one of his biggest philosophies of the Vulcans, are infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And they celebrate, this person has this talent, this person has that talent, this person looks like this person has, it's science fiction, so this person has 4 legs, this person has no leg, but they all have something good to offer, positive to offer, if you let them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And Winter, is that where we're going with this conversation and the book that you've written?
Absolutely, yeah. As you pointed out, the idea is just that we celebrate the differences that we have from other people, and that we look at other people and say, you're different, that's fantastic, let's all just be ourselves, and instead of insulting each other or something like that, let's raise each other up and support each other and be excited that we're not all the same.
Right. And, this is a very surface example, but I think it kind of works, is that if we didn't, back in my day, there were no tacos anywhere, okay? And we all love tacos, right? We love Taco Tuesdays and stuff. If we were closed-minded as a people, or, not open to the idea of, there's another country south of America, that has tacos and this different kind of food, we would never enjoy that food. So having the open mind gives you an experience of other cultures and other things that you may very well love and become part of your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But okay, so
Leo, do you like tacos?
No, burritos.
He's a big on the burrito. He's a burrito man. As long as there's no
burrito.
rice in the
Right.
He doesn't want the rice in the burrito, right, Leo? You're with me on that one.
But it's okay that your dad likes tacos and you like burritos. You don't have to,
Yeah, and the rest of my family, I think, likes tacos.
Yeah. Is that okay, though?
Yeah.
But we don't, like, fight about it. We, like, oh, like, that's cool. Like, we have different, like, preferences for different things and stuff.
And why don't you like the rice? Or, hey, you know what? I do like the rice. And you don't get mad because someone likes the rice in the burrito and you don't like the rice. I mean, that's a silly conversation, but it actually really works, right, guys?
Yeah.
I really want a burrito right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Too bad we don't have Taco
quesadilla?
Bell as a sponsor right now. That would work perfectly for
Sponsor.
And now, the nacho fry.
David Cohen, another question, a comment?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Winter. What kind of feedback, or do you get opportunities like this to get feedback from children about the book?
I do, actually, and it's amazing. I get people send me videos of their children reading the book. Some of them who are too young to read, so they're doing it from memory, because some of these kids have said, you know, every night they want to read the story over and over again, so they've started to learn it. So I'll get a video of a kid reciting the pages, or I'll get just still shots of somebody reading it to their kindergartner class or their pre-K class or first grade, and those are the best. They make me so happy. My favorite thing was, it was in a kindergarten class, and there was one boy in the class who had insisted since September that he's actually a cat. So he was super excited to hear this book. And at the end of it, this other little girl said, yeah, and I'm a unicorn. So I feel like those kids knew exactly what I was going for and could really celebrate it. So yeah, that is, and you know, and that's the difference between being a playwright, right? If I write a play, you know, adults go see it, they're in the audience, and they have their response. They talk about it later, or they don't. They like it, they don't. Or they buy the play and they put it on their shelf. But a kid's book is so different. That book is in people's homes. Like, that book there might be, you know, 20 years from now, a group of kids who, you know, meet up in college or whatever, and they're like, hey, do you remember that book, Not a Cat, about the cat who, like, ate Chinese food? And they're like, yeah. So, you know, the idea that is a possibility makes me really excited. I never anticipated that in the beginning, but just thinking about a kid's book as part of a family makes me really excited.
Now, think about it along those lines. We mentioned it before, but there are books that are staples and sort of kind of the foundation in some ways to our lives that are children's books, or books like this, where they carry the theme into your soul, such as, you know, Fall of Freddie the Leaf, The Giving Tree. Remember Goodnight Moon? Do you remember that one, guys? See? The Magic Tree House by Mary Pope Osborne. Leo's just gotten some of those, and Jill, you know. So there are books like this that I think do carry a message that go to the heart of our existence, if you will, or our soul, can touch our soul. Let's put it that way. And I don't know, Winter, and we only have a minute, but do you have any that touch you that you remember as a child growing up?
Absolutely. I loved Eloise. I loved Madeline, the Velveteen Rabbit. And I was just out with a friend of mine who also writes children's books, Anastasia Higginbotham. She has an incredible series of books that you should check out about ordinary, everyday things. But Anastasia and I were out, and there was this big rock that we'd been sitting on, and we got up from the rock. And just as we got up, I said, Sylvester, if you're here, we want you back. And she started laughing so hard, and it was because we both, without speaking, we both remembered Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, how he goes missing because he wishes he was a rock or something like that, and his parents really want him back. And because they're sitting on the rock and they say his name, he comes back to join them.
There we go.
We didn't have Sylvester appear at the rock, but we had a good time with it.
And we're having a great time here with the author of Not a Cat, a Memoir, Winter Miller. We'll be back right here on Everything Old's New Again for one more section. Everything Old's New Again, Not a Cat.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
Hi, this is comedian Wayne Fetterman. I am the author of a new book called The History of Stand-Up, From Mark Twain to Dave Chappelle, and I am on Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
There we go. A friend of the show, Wayne Fetterman. We have been in touch, David Cohen, a long-standing discussion we've had, and we're going to have him back on the show as well. And we're just enjoying having our time here with another author, Winter Miller. Not a Cat, a memoir. And Winter, I just want to ask you, speaking about the future, I know it's early because this book is just out, brand new. And by the way, go to your bookstore, your local bookstore, ask for Not a Cat, a memoir. You'll not be disappointed, and you'll support a local business. That'd be great. If not, of course, it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshot.org. Everywhere you can get a book, you can get this book. But along those lines, do you have any thoughts about continuing this kind of work for children's books for all those of all ages?
Maybe.
So we've got to sell a lot of these books, right? Get you motivated?
You got to sell a lot of books, make it really popular. We'll see how it goes. It is just out. I do have some other ideas. It was a blast making it. I've never created anything in my life that went so smoothly and was so much fun. So if I have another opportunity to do it, I would absolutely say yes.
And along those lines, I think Leo has something to say about a sequel. What do you think, Leo?
I don't know if this is can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead. Into the microphone.
Well, this is just a thought, but I think that my cat Picasso would be friends with Gato, and because he is curious and he thinks he's a person.
And it would make a good sequel, you think, the two of them getting together?
Yeah, maybe.
That's kind of cool.
Well, Leo, I think you should write a book about Picasso because you know Picasso so well.
I might do that.
How about that,
Leo? You might do that?
Yeah, I might do that.
Do it.
Do it
and send it to me.
Oh, what do you think of that idea, Leo?
Yeah.
And then you could do a crossover promotion.
Can I write him meeting Disney?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Oh, it's a great idea. Listen, it's a good thought, Winter. I was just thinking of that, right? I mean, writing is not an impossible thing that other people do and you can't do, right? I mean, tell us about how you get into it and what are you thinking about, children writing a sequel or their own, let's say, books themselves following up on this.
I think that's absolutely what kids should do. I think you should look at your cat, see what they're up to, and write a book as if you are that cat. Or you could pretend to be the cat and have the cat write a book about you. Imagine what your cat thinks of you. Like when you walk in the room, what is your cat thinking? Or when you're eating or whatever it is you're doing, does your cat think, wow, I wish I could play soccer, or I'd like to wear that shirt? What do you imagine your cat thinks about you?
Pretty good idea. Angelica did a little bit of an essay once, I remember, and you had the cat calling the human being something else. What'd you say?
Yeah, I wrote a story about my cat Disney and his point of view, and he called humans the tall creatures.
Right. You wouldn't know the word Angelica. Maybe he might know Angelica. Would know the word human, right?
Yeah, and I just want to say the moon was like a white yarn ball.
There you go.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, everything being totally in the perspective. I love it. You got to write that book.
Jericho, you just written that. That's your idea.
Copyright.
You're on the air, so it's been published. If you credit Angelica.
Trademark.
All right. Now, I want to talk for a moment about kids reading. We had up until the pandemic, and since we haven't gotten back to this, but Angelica's school and Leo's school had something called Nerd Camp. And at Nerd Camp, you would have probably about 30, even maybe 50 authors visit the school. It was our Super Bowl, we called it, right? They visit the school, we would go and get to meet the authors and, of course, buy their book if you were so interested in doing so. Get an autograph. And then we saw some, go back. A year later, we saw the author again with a new book, right? Yeah. And tell me, what do you think of that? Just as an idea, Winter. I mean, have you heard of that happening before? Or I just thought it was so unique.
That's amazing. I love it. Please do Nerd Camp again, and I want to get invited.
We will talk to the principal about it. I have it on my agenda to find out what happened to it and why. I think, of course, the pandemic, I'm hoping next year when things are hopefully cleared up, I'm thinking that, hey, let's open this and do this again. And along those lines, Leo met an author. This is silly, but Leo met an author 3 different times, right, Leo?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Arnie Bennett.
And he wrote, this is going to be silly, but as a point to it, what are the names of the 3 books?
The Butt Book.
The Butt Book is one.
Belchers, Burps, and Farts, Oh My.
Yes.
And Poopendous.
Poopendous. So he was approaching... He had a theme. And let's just show, the illustrations are reminiscent of the illustrations in Not a Cat. They're very creative and very fun. And we're not trying to promote these books per se, but what I'm trying to say is that, Leo, did you read these books?
Yes.
And did these books inspire you to read other books?
This, right?
Like this, and you became a reader because it was fun to read these kind of books. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was kind of like Not a Cat, a memoir.
Yeah, they were like Not a Cat, a memoir, because it just like Not a Cat, you really like to read it over and over again now, right?
Except for the potty humor.
Well, I think Artie's appealing to the potty humor in all of us, right? But they're fun and funny, and they're not nasty or anything like that. They're pretty cool. But anyway, we would talk about that for a different reason as well for Angelica, because Angelica, you went and many books. Angelica's a reader like crazy. She has we have to buy another bookshelf for her at this point. But Jel, you wanted to share one particular book that you think could be something that evolves for someone to read Not a Cat when you get older. Maybe read this book that you're talking about.
Yeah, especially if you read this book, this book, Not a Cat. I feel like I got this book at Nerd Camp. It's called The Sunday Suitcase, and it's a really good book, and it kind of, in a way, relates to Not a Cat, with the message and everything, and
Well, okay, but you were saying last night how the message is continues from Not a Cat.
Yeah.
And it evolved into a sort of a novel for you of that kind of message of being inclusive and not being closed-minded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. Just trying to expand it a little bit here to show that reading is fun and interesting for young people. When you get a book like Not a Cat, a memoir, that'd be memorable and something inspired to read even more. Yes, Joe.
Books, and especially this one too, can have an impact. It's not like you can just read a book and it's like, oh, okay, I read a book. There's a lot of meaning behind certain books, especially Not a Cat. So yeah.
There you go.
You know what you're making me think of, Angelica, is that page about in memory of Gato. Another one of the ways that this book is helpful is for people who have lost someone or a pet that they love. They can think about that grief because there's that page is about losing someone that you love and still celebrating their memory and keeping them with you.
Yes.
Yeah, and exactly. In some ways, when you don't forget the person or the cat or whoever it might be that's missing, in some ways they're still alive. And certainly, Gato is alive with Not a Cat by Winter Miller, and will make you smile. And I would assume that it makes you smile every so often when you have an interview, Winter, to talk about your cat and your experiences. It makes him come alive for you, I presume, right?
It absolutely does. I mean, I think about Gato all the time throughout the day, and sometimes I will just miss him. Sometimes I'll feel a little teary about him, but whenever I think of him, my heart just swells. It's so easy to love Gato. So I'm always happy to talk about him.
See that, yep. Angelica? Do you have another question, did you say?
Well, it was kind of already answered, but now that I'm thinking of it, I do have a question, a new one. So, I mean, how was the name Not a Cat thought of? Because I think that's pretty creative, actually.
Thank you. Well, it just came about because I thought, what if Gato thought of himself as anything but a cat? What if he was just sort of tired of people saying cats don't do this or cats don't do that? And so what if he was just like, I'm not a cat. I'm a person. I'm a dog. I'm a cow. I'm whatever it is. So that's how it came about.
Interesting.
Relates right to the heart of the story, right, Joe? You try to come up with a title that's interesting but also kind of gives a hint as to what the book kind of might be about.
Yeah.
Okay, Leo, do you have any other questions? We're running out of time here. Just want to make sure I don't want to shut you out.
No, I don't.
Okay.
You actually had a thought.
Yeah, well, the thought was the Picasso business, right?
Okay. Oh, right.
So listen, Winter, it's actually, sorry, David Cohen, do you have another question or anything?
I just want maybe this will just be a well-kept secret, but Winter, where are you on the page in the subway car?
Oh, that's going to be that. How about that's it?
Okay.
Find me on the page of the subway car, and then reach out to me on social media and tell me which one you think I am. I'm
Awesome.
on Instagram at Wintygram, or TikTok at Tiny Kitty, and Twitter at It's Winter Miller. So drop me a message and say which being you think I am on the subway car, and I'll tell you if you're right.
Let me ask
What
you
a perfect
one.
question to end this session.
It really is. That was perfect, David Cohen. That's why you're here. You've earned your pay for the day. We will be back next week to talk all things pop culture and entertainment pop culture and everything old is new again. Winter Miller, thank you so much for your time. Angelica Viviani, Leo Viviani, I will see you sometime soon. So thank you so much for coming. And David Cohen, I appreciate your time. Winter, again, thank you so much. We really had a great time. Good luck with this book, Not a Cat, a Memoir. Go to your local bookstore. Go to your library, ask for it. And you can even hit it up at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Winter Miller, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And Angelica and Leo, I hope when you write your books, you send me a note about them. I want to see them.
Yeah, we will.
And maybe we'll see you at Nerd Camp one day. We'll see if we can get that revived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, bring me to Nerd Camp. Whatever that is, I'm in. Nerd
great.
Camp everywhere.
All right, enjoy. We'll see you all next week. Everything old's new again.